A dog's life, filled with walks in the park, playing with sticks, getting hydraulic pressed into a meat cube. Wait a minute, one of those is wrong. Dogs shouldn't have sticks, they can hurt themselves. Come to think of it, I don't think they do the third thing either. But don't worry, Dog's Life is sponsored by dog food brand Pedigree, and they know how to keep dogs healthy. All these horrible corporate decisions and more in this game. Let's take a look, shall we? The game released in 2003 for PS2 and was developed by Frontier. Yeah, the same Frontier that makes roller coaster games. Upon starting, a CGI cutscene plays where we're introduced to the main character Jake, who promptly ends the life of a butterfly before being dognapped alongside his friend Daisy. Here we also see characters Wayne and Dwayne, who are a pair of incompetent dog snatchers. I guess the road was paved with Cocoa Pops and asbestos because the truck hits a bump and Jake falls out into the first level. He now needs to find Daisy before something bad happens to her. I'm sure she'll be fine though, as the game is rated for ages 3 and up. Forget you saw the title. The game is split into 4 sections to traverse on your way towards the finale. The main gameplay consists of exploration, dog-based minigames, and fetch quests. So many fetch quests.
When I get that last battery, I'm really gonna wail.
Sometimes I ask myself, is it worth it?
All these activities are new bones, which allow you to progress the story to the next zone. That's not the only thing that bones do. You can also use them to remote control dogs for some reason. Oh, and did I mention that the bones are sentient and seemingly every human carries them in their pockets? There's also a first-person mode. In this, you have the power of smell-o-vision, where you have to collect smells to unlock more activities. It's about as interesting as it sounds, but it's not all negatives, as this mode is much easier to control than the third person, where Jake operates worse than a broken tricycle on an ice skating rink. 2 important points. Someone working on the game didn't cap how many times you can bark per second, and I've just learnt that the reverberated fart sound effect was around even in 2003. The area from the first cutscene is the tutorial level. There wasn't much to see here, so I decided to explore the watermill, where I met a mad scientist who proceeded to stage a rocket launch about as successful as the average SpaceX expedition.
My beautiful rocket!
You also meet a man who is desperate to reunite with his lost axe. He seems mildly sketchy, but Jake will do anything for bones, even if that means being a possible accessory to murder.
Now I can finish making them dog cages for the dog catcher.
Speaking of the dog catcher, after arriving in the town centre, I was introduced to him, a man who looks like he indulged in a 2-for-1 Botox deal. He sets his dog on you, but gives up faster than Flash coming up with an original video idea. The characters have the vibe of a biblically accurate Muppet melted in the microwave. This is most noticeable with the child characters' horrifying toothless mouths. The characters aren't just horrifying looking. You'd think being a dog is easy, but half the population of this universe are apparently avid members of the r/dogfree subreddit.
I hate dogs. Scram you before I get my gun.
Fucking hell, it's gonna kill me, holy shit. Eventually, I had enough bones to bribe the dog catcher's hound for safe passage to Lake Minihawa. These two are also heading here to snatch more dogs, but are slightly behind due to reading a map worse than a pensioner with a sat-nav. In this cutscene, we're also introduced to the main villain of the game, Miss Peaches. She owns a cat food company named after her.
Did you collect some nice, clean Clarksville dogs?
Yes, Miss Peaches.
What about some nice, clean mountain dogs from up at Lake Minihawa?
Not yet, Miss Peaches.
Do you know what happens to idiots who disappoint me?
Yes, Miss Peaches.
Upon arrival into Lake Minihawa, I generously helped a girl get her coat back. You can see why you've got a coat to hide that fucking ugly ass asterisk on your shirt. After some constructive feedback on her fashion choices, she told me that her dog had gone missing and asked me to look for them. But I had better things to do, so I headed towards the ski resort. Now, before you cancel me, even Jake didn't hold back on this poor child.
Nice kid. Too bad she's 2 sandwiches short of a picnic.
Once in the resort, I found another child that I ignored, followed by a man crashing out over his radio not working.
Oh, The telephone lines are down.
As this occurred, a friend I was in call with noticed that this guy sounded like Larry from The Amazing World of Gumball. That's because Kerry Shale, the actor for Larry, voiced 32 characters in this game, including Jake. In fact, he voiced so many characters that Dog's Life won a world record for it. Even before Larry existed, he still did all the jobs. Something that needs to be brought up is that the pedigree promotion is plastered all over this game. On vending machines, in shops, even in the pause menu. One of my favourite uses which had me laughing was a rotating billboard which swaps between ads of Pedigree's real dog food and Miss Peach's delicious dog meat slurry. I have a feeling that the company was entirely unaware of what was in store for Jake later in the game, and if they were, I have no idea what they were thinking by choosing this promotion. While exploring on a roof, Jake took a bad tumble that probably fractured a few vertebrae and realigned his frontal cortex. But there's no need to fear, as that's nothing a quick trip to the pedigree-funded dog grooming parlor can't fix. My theory is that this sharp-looking instrument is providing some much-needed corporate brain rewiring. Won't be long till Jake starts spousing a YouTuber-style ad read that plays at random 2 to 3 times per business day.
Use code Jake to get 10% off.
There's more quests to do here, such as finding this musician's wig collection. But I know you're hankering for dog meat horror as much as the next person, so we'll move on to our final location, that's being Boom City.
I must have only the freshest, most organic animals. Deliver them to the Boom City Dog Pound. Now!
That was Miss Peaches. I think maybe she could use some therapy.
Boom City has a different vibe to the rest of the game. Unlike Clarksville or Minihawa with its calm upbeat vibe, this place is busier yet somehow feels empty. Buildings remain deserted with nothing but the perpetual drone of the radio pumping out Miss Peach's propaganda.
Do you trust me? Or don't you? Are you with me? Or against me?
The characters that do exist here are dealing with problems like gambling debt, lost kittens, and getting shot. The first-person mode's muted colours make this place even worse. Sometimes when near the dog pound, an all-encompassing fog rolls in, almost like just being near Miss Peaches is eating away at the very soul of the city. Upon entering the dog pound is where the developers decided that people's childhoods needed the first of several healthy dollops of trauma. A perturbing music track begins to play in the background as the cutscene starts. Wayne and Dwayne have arrived with their live cargo, and despite the scene having some humour spliced in, it doesn't help much with the oppressive feel as we're immediately afterwards dropped into the gameplay. It's so sad! Oh my god! What the fuck? Why is the sky
I have a
red?
very bad feeling about this.
So do I, Jake. The fog from Boom City has now morphed to a crimson red, along with the sky looking like a scene from Iron Lung. The dog catcher is an ever-present threat, following you while you collect keys. I cannot overstate the tonal whiplash between this and the rest of the game. After you unlock the cages, the dog catcher gives up and leaves to pursue his lifelong dream.
Programming computer games.
I look forward to seeing what nightmare fuel he creates. You're now unencumbered to enter Miss Peach's haunted shit shack.
You have done well.
We have?
One of those Clarksville dogs is perfect for my purposes. Nice and clean, lean yet tender. She will make a soft and sensitive treat, sliced, diced, and mashed into a delicious pate by the big machine. Once I have tested it on her, full production will commence.
Can I ask a question, Miss P? You're not gonna hurt that little doggy, now are ya?
We enter an industrial room. The music is gone, replaced by the distant sound of churning machinery.
Something tells me that Miss Peaches isn't making ordinary cat food.
You guessed correctly, Jake. The door opens to a decrepit factory. After 6 hours of gameplay, you're met with Daisy for the first time since the intro. In any normal game, it would be time for a happy reunion. Trouble being she's at the beginning of Miss Peach's Doggy Decapitator. You're on a timer to turn off each contraption before Daisy is carried along the conveyor to her demise. As always, the controls fought against me. This way. What are you doing? What are you doing? Run! 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 Daisy's about to die! What are you doing? If you fail to turn off a machine before Daisy reaches it, this nightmare-fueled scene occurs.
Daisy?
No, I can't look.
The finished cans of dog meat are horrifying, but it gave me a sense of deja vu which needed to be investigated. In order to understand why this final scene is so dark, I did some research into the developers. Around the same time of the game's development, David Braben, the game's director, was also working on Wallace & Gromit in Project Zoo, meaning that he would have likely been researching film company Aardman Animations around the same time. In 1995, Aardman made Wallace & Gromit a close shave. I remember watching this as a kid, and near the end of the film, a robot dog gets turned into dog food in a very familiar looking scene. Chicken Run, another project by the same company, also has a meat processing factory scene. It's very possible that one or both are the main inspiration behind the final level of Dog's Life. Luckily, Daisy's death isn't the true ending. If you're able to turn off this oven, meat grinder, hydraulic press and these blades, you reach a final mutt-mangling machine which you destroy by throwing a spanner in the works. Daisy is finally free. Oh, sorry, it says here in my notes that Miss Peaches jumps out with a shotgun ready to end your life once and for all.
Now you will both be transformed into nice, gooey food for my precious kitty cats. Get your doggy asses into the big machine!
Luckily, the game ends how it started, with Jake ending her life with one of his farts.
I'll slice you, I'll dice you, I'll mash you, if it's the last thing you see me.
Slicing, dicing, mashing. Miss Peaches is cat food.
At least there isn't an ad for pedigree on the wall of this factory. A point I want to make is that everyone you speak to in this universe has full conversations with you as if they know you can understand, which makes Miss Peach's actions even more disturbing. Either they know that dogs are sentient, or the pungent farts that Jake takes cause collective hallucinations. Miss Peaches is now gone, but I was still left with questions. For example, she mentions that Daisy is the first test of the big machine, but it's already pre-splattered with blood, meaning it's already seen use. The answer conceivably lies in an obscure feature of the game, that being the radio. Throughout the levels are several broadcasts which provides additional context to the story, with cat food advertisements.
Miss Peaches, cat food in a can, with its super secret ingredient.
Celebrity crash outs.
Hey, back off, Lardbutt! My contract clearly specifies that you may not come within 3 feet!
And presenters having conversations with Miss Peaches. In Boom City, Tristram Tittle Tattle presents
Talking Pussy.
with special guest Miss Peaches. She threatens him midway through the broadcast.
Oh, will you read the darn commercial or do I bring that scrawny neck of yourn?
Well, you know, you might want to book some time off. Take a vacation. 'Cause that flapping mouth of yours might just land you in the hospital someday. Someday soon.
I have a feeling that he may have been the first unwilling volunteer of our project.
Oh, Miss Peaches, I am honored by your touch.
Not gonna lie, he fucking deserved it. There's also several moments of foreshadowing in these broadcasts.
Miss Peaches is cat food.
Now, some folks say that Miss Peaches has flipped her wig, and some folks doubt Miss Peaches' crusade for the ultimate pussy food. But those folks are no longer employed here at the Miss Peaches factory in lovely Boom City. They are not nice people, and they deserve whatever grisly fate awaits them. But enough ugly thoughts.
The cutting room floor states several things about regional differences. The Japanese version is censored with a different ending, but the website doesn't mention other changes such as missing blood on these blades. The American version is also different.
The American version is also different, with the ESRB rating this teen rather than 3+. This means that fewer Americans have been scarred by this experience. On top of this, Pedigree didn't sponsor the game there, so it's replaced by a generic brand called Chow Chow. Oh shoot, my cat's sniffing the game.
Did anyone else just see that cool looking gay deer break into my house and read my script? Only me? Okay, I'll continue, I guess. Upon the game ending, the dogs simply move on with their life.
Well, that's it, I guess.
There's almost a poetic irony to this. Miss Peaches had such a tight grip of power in this world, yet on her death, everyone moves on and forgets about her. It reminds me of the poem Ozymandias.
My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains.
Well, either that, or they just don't care because they're dogs. First, I'd just like to say thank you so much for 60,000 subscribers. We have grown so quickly, especially in the past couple of months. Also, thank you to all the friends that helped me out with doing little collabs in this video. I should have a really cool video coming at some point. Anyway, bye!